Here we go. Hello, and welcome to a live recording of Guide to the Unknown. I'm William.
And I'm his big sister, Kristen.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about haunted Wyoming stuff today, which will be fun.
That's right. We're recording Wyomingians, you think?
Wyomites.
Wyomites. Yeah, maybe.
That's way cooler.
Yeah.
Were you about to take a sip of something and you stopped because we went live?
Yes.
I say go for it, Kristen. I say go for it. Yeah, because here on YouTube, this is the live recording of. You're in the live studio audience, everybody, and the finished show is going to be on Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. Here we can hang loose a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Kristen is remote tonight. I'm sitting at my desk rather than the Guide to the Unknown set. I have a space heater under my desk, and my toes are cold.
Ooh. I am on my bed because right now my bedroom is the best acoustically for recording.
Yes.
And I have two doggies with me.
Yeah, let's get a quick dog check. Yeah,
Yep,
so that's
quick dog
one.
check.
And there's a dog butt. And there's two. Hi, Buffy. It looks like I'm doing a show with her.
Yeah, it does. And there's a little crummy.
Aw. Is Chloe near you?
No, she's in the other room.
Damn. Okay.
She did in fact singe a little bit of her fur.
Oh, she
yesterday.
did. Oh,
Yes,
no.
it's not bad. It's just like there's a small patch where it seems like the edges were a little singed.
Oh,
She walked
really?
by a candle on my side table while we were recording. That is the episode about the Bermuda Triangle.
Mhm.
So if you want to go and find that, there's a point where I think I'm looking off to the side and I'm like, the hell, because I smelled something and the dogs started coming around her. But she's fine. It wasn't like a lot or anything. I think she just got close to it, close enough for like something to happen.
All right. Well, I'm glad she's okay.
She's fine.
Yeah. All right. Hey, why? Without any further ado, you want to get into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Cool.
Hello, welcome to Guide to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And today we are doing a bald grab for listeners from Wyoming because people from Wyoming, your state is the state that listens to Guide to the Unknown the least in the entire country. And we want you. We must have you. And so we've gathered a bunch of folklore and hauntings from your state to try to lure you to us.
Yeah, we've done this before. The previous state that listened to Guide to the Unknown the least was Alaska. But then we did an episode all about Alaskan folklore and stuff, and the numbers improved. I wouldn't say that they exploded, but they certainly improved. So we're going to do the same thing with Wyoming this time, because Wyoming, you may be the 10th largest state of the Union.
Oh.
But you've only listened to Guide to the Unknown 702 times.
Right, over the last 3-ish years.
Yeah, exactly. So how dare you, first of all?
What's going on with you guys?
And let's see if we can at least get you out of last place.
Mm-hmm. Right. I would love that.
Yeah, I wonder what Wyoming's favorite podcast is. You know? We know it's not us.
Yeah, I wish we had access to that kind of information. What if it's something that's like the polar opposite of us? I'm trying to think of what it would be.
Guide to the Known.
Like,
they just tell stories about stuff we already know about.
So maybe stuff you should know? No, that's still, you don't know it. But, still, I don't know, Joe Rogan? Maybe Wyoming loves Joe Rogan?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who cares? So this week on the show, we've got a fun variety of stories. Kristen and I have each got a bunch of different topics that we're going to cover. We're going to go back and forth sharing them because, like everywhere else on the planet, Wyoming is loaded with freaky stories.
Yes.
And honestly, this means it's probably stuff that we might not have covered otherwise, which is kind of exciting.
Oh, absolutely. William, I would like to invite you to take the floor first.
Oh, okay. All right. So I want to tell you I've got a few big stories and a few like smaller quick bite stories. Do you want something, a tasty morsel, or do you want to do a deep dive?
I want to start off substantial.
All right. Let's do it.
I don't want an amuse bouche. Let's get a big one.
Then I'm going to jump in with my favorite.
Great.
How does that sound? I'm going to tell you the story about Big Nose George.
Ooh, okay.
Now, I had never heard this
I think
before.
I used to date him.
Oh, Chris.
It's my Lisa Lampanelli, very gently kind of humor.
Lisa Lampanelli.
Lisa Lampanelli. So he's talking about like all the guys she Dated.
Yeah, I know. Didn't she literally retire from comedy years ago?
Actually, yeah, she did.
Yeah, cool reference for 2021. Anyway,
Thank you.
anyway, Big Nose George was a cowboy. This is the late 1800s. Literally, most of his story is about the 1870s. His real name was George Parrott, which is also a great name. It's like a pirate name, but he was a cowboy.
Well, also, parrots have a big beak.
Oh, you're
So
right.
that's weird. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Maybe. Who knows?
Huh.
Yeah. He obviously got his nickname Big Nose George because he had a big nose.
Right.
But he was your sort of run-of-the-mill cowboy man. He would make broad claims during his robberies and stuff that he said that he ran with Jesse James. And who knows if that's actually true. He probably didn't. People seem to agree. But the guy was just a no-good cheat, a dirty crook, Kristen. And while I personally had never heard of him before, his story might just be one of the most shocking cowboy nightmares of all time.
Cool.
This is almost a true crime story to a certain extent, but you'll see where it gets real weird. So, in 1878, George Parrott and his gang tried to rob a train because that's what they're up to in the 1870s. It's classic cowboy shenanigans. But according to Wikipedia, they bungled it. Bungled it
Bungled the job.
quite a bit. Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
I'll try to stop wiggling around.
Why is that happening?
Bad wire,
Oh.
I think, or bad port on my computer, which is worse.
Hmm.
So yeah, he bungled the job, which is the thing you don't want to do.
Right.
And in screwing up the great train robbery, they eventually just had to try to get away. And in doing that, they ended up killing 2 officers. A $20,000 bounty was put out on their heads. And then 2 years later of, skirting the law and committing other robberies and stuff, this guy never stopped. Old Big Nose was getting sauced in a saloon. And he
Okay.
starts running his mouth and he starts bragging about how he had killed these 2 Wyoming lawmen back in 1878. He's arrested and thrown in jail.
So dumb. He probably would have gotten away with it if he had just kept his mouth shut.
He couldn't do it. But
Right.
now in jail, the shenanigans still have not stopped. Big Nose attempts to break out, and during his attempted escape, he ends up fracturing the skull of another officer.
Oh my God.
He did not succeed. He ends up back in his jail cell, but the story spreads. And the very same cop who had his skull shattered by Big Nose finds himself held at gunpoint while people break into the jail trying to get Big Nose out of his cell. Horrible news, though. Big Nose might think this is his gang or something coming to break him out, but
Oh.
this is part of a mob of 200 people who had had enough of Big Nose attacking and killing cops, and so they drag him outside and they lynched him on a telegraph pole.
Whoa.
So now Big Nose is dead, but his story still isn't over, Kristen.
Wow.
And now I'm going to read to you literally from Wikipedia because the story is wild. That was all the preamble of why the Big Nose story is significant. Presumably this, the mob and getting cowboys and all this stuff was happening all the time. It's different from here on out for Big Nose. So, doctors Thomas McGee and John Eugene Osborne took possession of Big Nose's body after his death to study the outlaw's brain for clues as to his criminality.
I like calling it clues.
I know, clues. Just looking at the wrinkles and folds of his brain will be like, now that's where the crime part happened.
Right.
So the top of George Parrott's skull was crudely sawn off, and the cap was presented to 15-year-old Lillian Heath, then a medical assistant to Dr. McGee. Heath became the first female doctor in Wyoming, and it is said that she used the cap as an ashtray, a pen holder, and a doorstop.
Oh, that's badass.
A death mask was created of Parrott's face, and skin from his thighs and chest was removed. The skin, including the dead man's nipples, yikes, was sent to a tannery in Denver, Colorado, where it was made into a pair of shoes and a medical bag.
Ew, where do you think the nipples went?
Ew, yeah, like are they on the shoes?
Yeah.
Just on the toes of the shoes? Or are they on the sides where like Converse? You know,
that's exactly what I was just formulating. That was exactly what I was just formulating.
The Converse high tops emblem on the side is where George Parrott's nipples were.
Right. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Just so you
or
can show off.
Or it was like where the laces go through.
Ew. That's so much worse. So Dr. John Eugene Osborne wore the shoes to his inaugural ball after being elected as the first Democratic governor of the state of Wyoming.
Oh my God.
We're still not done. Parrott's dismembered body was then stored in a whiskey barrel filled with a salt solution for about a year while quote, the experiments continued. They still haven't gotten to the bottom of,
they're still looking for clues.
They still can't crack the case, Kristen. And then he was buried in the yard behind Dr. Thomas McGee's office.
What was with Dr. Thomas McGee and this guy?
I know. It's like even the doctors who are supposed to be like the reputable, the voices of logic and sanity are just as crazy as this lawless madman. You know, admittedly, they're not committing any crimes. They didn't kill anybody. Let's say Big Nose is definitely worse. But hey, why are we cutting up people's bodies and putting the nipples on shoes? What are we doing?
And why do you want this guy buried in your backyard? Like some sort of trophy or something that you can walk over and water your flowers and you get a little private thrill because you know that Big Nose is under there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's
where Big Nose George Parrott is buried. Now, Kristen, thankfully, the next section on Wikipedia is simply titled Rediscovery because the story's still not over. The death of Big Nose George faded into history over the years until May 11th, 1950, a day which will forever live in infamy.
Yes.
When construction workers unearthed a whiskey barrel filled with bones while working on the Rollins.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm glad it was just dry.
True.
Just bones.
It could still be juicy in there. You're right. Inside the barrel was a skull with the top sawed off, a bottle of vegetable compound, and the shoes said to be made from Parrott's thigh flesh. So they buried the shoes with George Parrott.
What?
Now we're in the 1950s, so you're thinking like sock hops and, you know, getting them malted down at the store and stuff and driving cars. Dr. Lillian Heath, now just in her 80s, was contacted and her skull cap was sent to the scene. It was found to fit the skull in the barrel perfectly, and DNA testing later confirmed the remains were those of Big Nose George. Today, the shoes made from the skin of Big Nose George are on permanent display at the Carbon County Museum in Rawlins, together with the bottom part of the outlaw's skull and Big Nose George's earless death mask. The shackles used during the hanging of the outlaw, as well as the skull cap, are on show at the Union Pacific Museum in Omaha, Nebraska. The medicine bag made from his skin has never been found.
Why did they bury him with those shoes? I find that really weird that they threw the shoes in the barrel.
Maybe they were treating it like a time capsule, right? Like if you're, you know, preserving him with whiskey and salt or whatever, maybe they really were like, someday people are going to come around and find Big Nose George again. And this is significant.
I guess.
Here's a man and a pair of shoes made of the man.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is the first story that I've got for you of weird goings on in Wyoming that I don't think I ever would have come across otherwise.
No, absolutely. That's so crazy. All right, William, I ask you the same question with a twist. I could give you a slightly longer story or a shorty, but I would like you to know that the shorty is from Rawlins.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Let's I know it's only a shorty, but let's stick with Rawlins and see what's going on there.
Okay, I think that makes sense. So this is a story about the Wyoming Frontier Prison. This place was operational from 1901 to 1981, and it sounds like it was a rough one. I don't think there were a lot of really nice prisons, like kind of back in the early 1900s, but it seems like this one was kind of particularly rough. It was overcrowded a lot of the time. It didn't have heating. The electricity was super spotty. It just seems rough. So, the most famous story about a haunting in this prison is a story having to do with the Pie Lady. And honestly, this it kind of reminds me a little bit of your story, not just the Rollins connection. So the deal is that there was this woman who used to come to the prison and bring the prisoners pies, just like a nice person. And then one of the prisoners escaped, tracked down the Pie Lady, and killed her.
Why?
I don't know. Just a no good Nick. I don't know why they did it.
I guess she was just known to him, like she's a target.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Ugh.
Right. Or like, people kind of like get off on these sick things sometimes, like, oh, it's such a nice woman and I'm gonna take her out of the world.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Oy. But so this person killed the Pie Lady. But he was caught by the cops. He was sent back to prison. And then his fellow inmates killed him for killing the Pie Lady because they all loved her.
Whoa.
By hanging him from a balcony for doing that. So it reminded me of the mob coming to get Big Nose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like quote unquote justice by unruly mobs.
Justice.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's said now that his ghost can be seen there, stuck in a residual haunting loop, being thrown over the balcony.
Whoa.
That this is this guy's destiny now, and his like life sentence is just to relive that hanging over and over again without necessarily knowing that this has happened a million times. It's like always the first time, and he doesn't know that he's dead.
He's always in a state of being killed.
Right.
I hope the Pie Lady is stuck in a state of smelling wonderful pie and having a nice afterlife
too.
and maybe sampling the pie.
I certainly hope so. I know. I hope she cut herself a slice.
Yeah.
So
she always handed in pies that had a slice removed.
a little. So it's like a communal experience.
Yeah.
It's like you're having pie with me, says the Pie Lady. I had a little bit of this, and now you're going to have some too. It's like we're having it together.
Maybe the bad man was like, I wanted that piece.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he was like, she kept taking pieces of the pie. Maybe he went to her house thinking that there was going to be a big pie that was comprised of all these individual pieces from the different flavors.
Probably.
And when he didn't find it there,
I think
he lost it.
We've finally cracked the case.
I think you're right. So there are other ghosts too in the prison. Apparently there's an angry ghost who confronts people when they enter certain areas that the ghost doesn't want them to be in. And there's a reflection of an apparition wearing a brimmed hat who is sometimes seen in the execution room. Now, because the place has such a haunted reputation, they do a haunt there, like a haunted house sort of thing, kind of like Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. And if you want to see some of the things that have gone down in the Wyoming Frontier Prison, check out season 6, episode 20 of Ghost Adventures.
Oh.
Our old friends Bacons and crew have visited this place.
Very cool. That's fun.
Yes. Yeah. So that's that.
Wonderful. I'm going to hit you with another shorty.
Okay.
I think. Let's talk about the Platte River death ship, which... first of all, Wyoming is landlocked, so the only way that you can get a death ship is on a river, which is kind of fun because I guess I always think about a death ship as being out on the high seas, right?
Yeah, right, because you can't go that far.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think when you're landlocked.
Exactly.
So how long is this death thing going? It must be pretty fast.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. So this one, it's kind of fun. So they say that on dark, foggy evenings, you might just see the death ship creep out on the Platte River. If you see it and if you peer closer at it, you might just make out that the ship is crewed, and the crew is standing out there on the deck in a circle, all looking at something. And as witnesses watch, the crew is said to eventually spread out, revealing what they're looking at. It is a body.
Ooh.
The body will be recognizable to one of the people witnessing the ghost ship's arrival. So somebody's standing on the banks of the river seeing this ghost ship and looking closer and seeing this body on the deck of the death ship will be like, that's my friend. That's my girlfriend. That's my wife. Matter of fact, the first sighting is said to have been in 1862 by a man named Leon Weber, who evidently saw his girlfriend on the deck, and she died that very day. And they say that if you do see somebody that you recognize on the deck of that ship being stared at by the crew, they will die before the day is over. It's also said by mycountry955.com that attempts to take pictures of the phantom ship never turn out. The camera will usually produce a photo that is either solid gray or shows only a white haze surrounded by fog.
Cool.
Yeah, kind of interesting.
That's scary. That is a scary idea.
It's a very scary idea. It's also very similar to, like, we've talked a lot about the notion of, doppelgangers, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, what if you saw somebody and then you walked into, the next room and they're actually on the couch in that room?
Right.
What does that doppelganger mean? This is like this is like big trappings for a doppelganger story, right? This is sort of a traditional doppelganger story, but with the added element of a giant ornate ghost ship.
Right.
And a crew staring at the doppelganger or something like that,
What a setting. Also, I feel like people all in a circle looking down at something that you can't see is always scary. It's hard to not have dread about that.
Big time.
Because how often is it something good?
No, yeah. It makes me think of like people crowding around somebody that like fell off the top of a building or something,
Right.
Like just sort of rubbernecking and collectively everyone just going, well, look at that. Oh my God, what happened?
Right.
So are they mourning? Are they aware that they're looking at a dead body, this crew of the death ship?
Right.
Is that person a new member of the crew on the death ship?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So is everybody who's in a ring, maybe they had previously been in the center?
Yeah,
maybe.
Dead? Yeah, exactly. At one point they were lying there on the deck.
And now they've graduated to watching other people.
Yeah, exactly. It's their graduation ceremony.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's one of those stories that like there's a lot of familiarity to it, but the specificity of it being the Platte River death ship, I think makes it distinct as its own standalone story. Pretty fun.
I really, really like that. Okay, I'm going to, again, springboarding off of your topic, we're going to go to Riverton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's water.
It's like a word association, all your stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so this is about the Acme Theater. And this went a direction that I wasn't expecting it to go, that I really enjoyed. It was a shorty, and then I did a little bit of extra research and stumbled upon something that,
really
took my breath away.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a movie theater now, but originally the Acme Theater was built for live performances. It went up in 1920 and it housed live stage shows, penny acts and vaudeville acts. Might one of the vaudevillians, William, decided not to leave the theater?
Oh.
Because people report seeing a man sitting in the upper balcony sometimes who seems to be dressed in like showy, old-timey clothing. And so people suspect that maybe he's a former performer there who's just sort of stuck around.
Or a former audience member that's waiting for another show to start.
Perhaps. I'm assuming that there's a real razzle-dazzle to his clothing.
Maybe.
Or something. But, a lot of people have razzle-dazzle.
See, I'm thinking about Statler and Waldorf, those old man Muppets that are always up in the balcony.
Yeah, true. Who's to say it's not one of them?
Yeah.
Actually, I know exactly who's to say that it's not one of them.
What?
And that it's not anybody. It is the commenter Michael Nightfall from website hauntedplaces.org, one of our favorites.
Yeah.
This comment, which I find to be a real doozy, was left just this past July at 3:03 in the morning. This is what this person was up to. And I paraphrased some things, but I'll let you know what I'm paraphrasing. So they, on hauntedplaces.org, they show you anything in your area you can put in your zip code, and they'll list every place that's said to be haunted and give a very brief summary of what the deal is supposed to be there. And then there's a comments section where people talk about their experiences there. So here is what Michael commented about the idea of this being a haunted place. Ha ha ha. I lived in the apartments above the theater for 5 years. Never heard, felt, or seen anything to have me think the place was haunted. And then he goes on for a while about the various times that the building has changed hands, I think to kind of show that he knows what he's talking about and he really has had a lot of interaction with this place. And he mentions that the current owner's name is Mr. Barry. Then Michael Nightfall says, speaking with Mr. Barry, he had worked at the theater since junior high school, working his way up to manager, general manager, and later purchasing the theater. He had never seen, felt, or heard anything to make him think the theater was haunted. One Halloween when I lived there, I toured a group of ghost hunters, quote unquote, around the theater in the dark. They did not find anything, but they thought they had a picture of a witch-shaped figure with a classic Halloween-looking hat. Mind you, it was the shape from the flash of the camera, and only the silhouette had a shape kind of like a witch. I also saw it to be a rhino, a sideways submarine, and a hammer with arms and legs. Basically, it was like looking at cloud formations and seeing a turtle. Is this place old? You betcha. Is it haunted? Well, does a Tyrannosaurus Rex ever lay eggs in the woods?
What?
Exactly. It's
What?
like that.
What? That's not a phrase.
I know. I guess he was like, what is something to which the answer would be no and would also be weird?
I know. Is it... Hold on. I've really got to wrap my mind around this. Well, does a Tyrannosaurus Rex lay eggs in the woods? Is the point... Was he slipping in that he loves dinosaurs? You know, like, for him, the phrase has nothing to do with bears, right? It's about... For him, the phrase is better when it's about a dinosaur.
It's always been. I know.
Yeah.
I also, before we move to the last paragraph, which is kind of divorced from the rest of it and is a doozy, I also want to say I would like more context about why he was giving ghost tours of the place when he lived above it. He didn't say that he worked there or anything. He said, one Halloween when I lived there, I toured a group of ghost hunters around the theater in the dark.
Peculiar. Yeah, you're right. That's weird. Also, I mean, for somebody that doesn't seem to enjoy any of this haunted shenanigans stuff, he's also leaving a comment on hauntedplaces.org.
I know. And I also, William, I did a little more searching. I wanted to know if this guy's leaving other such... You know what? Let me read you the last paragraph, and then I'll show you why I was so intrigued with this
So
gentleman.
you just started doing deep dives on this guy, is what you're telling me.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
I can't wait. Kristen,
No, they're fruitless. They're fruitless. I didn't get it.
All right. Well, I was going to say, I don't know if people out there have any reason to know this. Kristen is a web sleuth. Kristen is, like, shockingly adept at tracing people, finding secret accounts, reading into the reasons why people put certain captions on photos. Kristen will find you.
I'm almost always right, too.
It's awesome, to the degree that, like, if I needed a detective, I would hire Kristen.
I'm pretty good, I think.
An internet detective. I don't think that I want, I think that you're a flat-foot gumshoe. I don't think that you'd be walking around alleyways, like, trailing people and stuff. But on the internet, on, like, Facebook, you're quite good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I really do take pride in it, actually. I really enjoy it.
A sick
Maybe
amount
I should
of pride.
pursue that as, like, a sidekick. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is the last paragraph. We ended it, with it's not haunted because does a Tyrannosaurus Rex ever lay eggs in the woods? We know it doesn't. So here is the ending paragraph. Now, for you millennial kids that need to feel woke, special ending.
Excellent.
Now, for you millennial kids that need to feel woke, special and included, just know that life is a lesson. If you can learn it now in your 20s, you will learn that you are not special, you are not entitled, and you are not a ghost hunter. You might as well call yourself a pirate and go sailing out to sea to hunt the great mythical Kraken from the tales of Atlantis.
Wow. ... Long joke.
Long joke. And that's it. So then I Googled Michael Nightfall in quotations to see if that was his name on any other message boards or anything. Nothing. Michael Nightfall, Wyoming. Michael Nightfall, Acme Theater. I got nothing. I wanted more, and I came up short.
I think, can you tell me, do you have any idea when this comment was left?
It was July of just this past year.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying
Yeah.
the article was July this past year. All right. So within a year, he said millennials who are in their 20s.
Right.
Technically speaking, you and I are millennials.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I don't think millennials are in their 20s now.
I think Michael Nightfall might be a little disconnected.
Yeah, I can't. Well, I must be a little disconnected because I can't remember what you call the generation that's under us.
Generation Z?
Z? I think. No, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Zambonios. I have no idea.
Probably Zambonios. I think you just call them TikTok.
Generation TikTok. But it's wonderful to me when people rail against millennials and think that they're in their like 20s. You know?
Right.
When it's like, I'm bald.
Right.
And I'm a millennial.
Right. I'm 37 and I'm technically a millennial. I am a cuspy millennial,
Yes.
but I am a millennial still.
You're at the edge. My dream was to be Generation X, but it did not occur. But
yeah, so am I cusp Generation X? I
think
guess?
you're because I think Generation X is right before us, right?
I think so.
Right? I think so. Whatever. Who
Yeah.
cares? But
Right.
the point is, I love hearing people talk like that. I get a real.
I know. I will. I wish there was a camera on me because I'm reading this. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then I was like straightened up and I was like,
I know.
oh.
Can you?
Things just got very interesting.
It's real weird, but can you read the last paragraph again? I just love it.
Oh, of course I can. Okay. Sorry, scooched up. Okay, here we go. Now, for you millennial kids that need to feel woke, special, and included, just know that life is a lesson. If you can learn it now in your 20s, you will learn that you are not special, you are not entitled, and you are not a ghost hunter. You might as well call yourself a pirate and go sailing out to sea to hunt the great mythical kraken from the tales of Atlantis.
Zing. Life is a lesson is a terrible, terrible, terrible phrase.
Yeah, you just know that life is a lesson.
Life is a lesson. Life is full of lessons. You know, like
Right.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I know what he's going for, but it's not wisdom. You know, like it's awesome. It's wonderful.
It's not landing on wisdom.
No, it doesn't play, and I love it. I love it. Way to go! What a hell of a guy.
Yeah. I was thrilled.
Yeah.
I was so glad I went the extra mile.
Kristen, I know. At least you tried. You know, I'm so glad you tried to find this guy.
I meant with the extra mile of like looking onto hauntedplaces.org and going through the comments.
Oh, fair enough.
But
Yes.
I mean, I did try to go the extra mile to find him. But
Totally.
I just realized I didn't exhaust all my resources. So I'll see. I only utilized Google. I didn't do anything else on social media. So.
Oh, well, but it does seem like a username. I don't think that we read this person's real name.
I don't think so either, but it's worth a look. I mean, that could be his username on social media, so we'll see.
Can't hurt. I also love the idea of being like, for people who need to feel woke. Like, you know, like woke isn't a feeling, you know? Like woke is theoretically like
could be a feeling. I guess it could.
It's like a manner of behaving, theoretically, right?
It's a manner of behaving, but it could also be like you could, I don't know, you could post something on Instagram that's kind of like,
true.
And you're like, okay, good. I kind of feel.
I get to feel.
I get to feel above it. You know what I mean? So I guess that makes sense.
All right, you're right. I still think that he doesn't know that he used it technically correctly. Then, anyway,
perhaps.
Can I share a quick tiny one with you?
Yes.
Okay, because this one is Fort Laramie, which is a haunted location in Wyoming, but there's not much to it except that it does have like a Guide to the Unknown classic. So there's a legend at this old fort. Again, we're talking like, 1800s, that at one point the person in charge had a daughter, and the daughter had, shockingly, zero interest in being cooped up at some old fort. She wanted out, and yet her father kept assigning guards to stick by her side and wouldn't let her go out alone, and the frontier's a dangerous place, you cannot go, blah, 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 blah. So she's stuck, she's trapped, until she manages to get herself a horse, and she gets away from her guards, off to freedom.
Oh, nice.
Well, she was never seen again.
Oh dear. Well, or great.
I know. Who knows? Yeah, she maybe she just went out there and lived her best life.
Exactly.
But people say while she was never seen again in life, she has been seen again in death. Legend has it, Kristen, that every 7 years, the glowing green specter of a young woman on a horse can be seen. Flowing green can be seen riding around the fort on her horsey. Wait a minute, Kristen. Every 7 years? Why, that means that the next time that she should be visible is this year.
Oh, really?
Just kidding. I have a source that says she was last seen in 2018.
William.
So why don't you just ask Siri to remind you to head to Fort Laramie in 2025? Maybe. If you're there on the right day, you can see her. Also, this isn't the end of all the hauntings there, Kristen, not by a long shot, because people also say that they've heard footsteps in the captain's quarters.
Ooh.
And that's it.
What he's doing up there.
Yeah, wow.
Wowie.
Wowee. When I read that last sentence, that people have heard footsteps, a chill went up my spine.
Chills. Absolutely.
Chills.
Well, you know what? Let's warm ourselves up a little bit, Will.
Yeah.
By talking a little bit about ourselves.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes. So Guide to the Unknown comes out every Friday on all podcast apps and on youtube.com/talkbomb. So you can either just listen to us in your headphones while you're doing dishes, or you can watch us talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a Patreon page. It's patreon.com/gttupod. And if you sign up to support us for $4 or more, you can change that form per month. You get some bonuses as thank yous because we really appreciate the support. It truly keeps the show going and happening. And thank you so much to all of our current patrons. So what those people who are already patrons get is, first and foremost, a secret monthly podcast that's only for people on Patreon called the Netherworld Dispatch. You get a link that you can put into your podcast app, and then it updates just like any other podcast that you listen to, but it's secret. Mm-hmm. So as of right now, we have close to 20 episodes of the Netherworld Dispatch. It's really cool. It's similar to Guide to the Unknown in that we talk about spooky stuff, but we have a little bit more freedom in the format over there because it's private to do things like insert audio clips and talk about them. So it's a really, really neat thing.
Yeah, it's fun. You get to see Kristen and me react to horror clips. We've done scary music videos, like Will Smith did this awesome music video called Nightmare on My Street.
Right, and so there's a YouTube version of that too, so you can watch it or listen to it.
Yeah, you can literally see us watch the music video or listen to us react to the music, which is literally Will Smith rapping about Freddy Krueger.
Right. It's awesome.
It's one of my favorite things we've ever done, honestly, and it's exclusive. It's in the exclusive Patreon club. So yeah, definitely check that out. Follow at GTTUpod on all social media. That'll keep you up to date every time that we're doing a new show or saying, hey, we're going to record something live. Maybe you'll see us pop onto Instagram stories, stuff like that. Just keep us in your ecosystem. And if you are enjoying this show, please consider spreading the word. Tell your friends. Tell your mom, call your grandma. She would love to hear from you, and you can explain to her what a podcast is. Write a Facebook post. Write a post about all your favorite podcasts. And hey, what if one of them's Guide to the Unknown? That's cool. It really helps us out. And this show lives and dies on the enthusiasm of the people who are enjoying it. And thankfully, the people who are enjoying it seem to be pretty damn enthusiastic. We've got like a great community here. So make sure that you're part of it, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, William. Let me tell you a short and wholesome story. This is very cute. Yes, it's like an antidote to my last story that was full of rage.
Fine.
Okay, this is about the Wort, W-O-R-T Hotel in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Okay.
So this place is haunted by the spirit of Bob Tomigas. He was a maintenance engineer at the hotel and kind of a jack of all trades who took care of all kinds of things there. And he really, really cared about his job. He got along really well with his coworkers. He really cared about the guests there. So much so that he would sometimes come back to the hotel in the middle of the night if the temperature dropped super low to make sure that the boilers were properly working for the guests.
Oh.
He was like this super friendly, helpful dude. And the other people who worked there, engineers or anybody else who had to do anything mechanical, would come to him with all sorts of random problems. And he seemed to always have an answer and always know how to fix everything. He was just like super beloved there. And it seems like after his passing, he was still helping out at the hotel. So one of the incidents is that one day, one of the engineers was trying to find this break in a water pipe that was in a wall. So they couldn't find the source of where the water pipe broke so that they could repair it. And they're looking all over the place. And finally, he walked down this hallway and he saw a pipe wrench that he hadn't been using or hadn't placed there leaning against the wall, just like out of nowhere in the hallway of the hotel. So he decided to go with his hunch that, like, this is kind of weird, but like maybe Bob has kind of put this there as a marker. And so he broke into the wall at that point, and it was indeed where the break in the pipe was.
Wow. That's cool.
Really, really neat.
I do like that.
Isn't it sweet? And they also say that Bob will sometimes also rearrange the maintenance room.
Oh.
Like he just like wants things to be a certain way. And that the people who work there just kind of laugh about it. And it's really cute. The Wort Hotel website, it tells this story on the Wort Hotel website, and it ends with, or maybe it didn't end with this, but they said, while Bob never appears for our guests, we still consider him a valuable team member at the historic Wort Hotel.
I love that.
Isn't that cute?
That's really great. That's a legacy. You know, like whether or not you believe in the supernatural, like there's a phrase that everyone dies two deaths, when your body dies, and then the next death is the last time somebody says your name.
Right.
And the idea that this person was so helpful and so good that people are, whether or not there's a haunting going on, they're ascribing oddities that happen at the hotel to him still to this day, and keeping his memory alive is wonderful. Yeah. It's really heartwarming. And even if you do believe in hauntings, the idea that this guy was so, I don't know, eager to make himself useful and take care of things, that now in the afterlife, with the abundance of time of eternity, he is still just fixing things, or at least drawing people's attention to where a leak is and stuff. It's great. He's got a job. He's got a gig that he's still doing to this day. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, it must be so cute for his family to know that people say that about him.
Yeah,
you know?
That's super fun. I love that.
Yeah.
You're right. Very heartwarming ghost story. This one's not very heartwarming, but it is part of, like, I don't know, pop culture history. And I didn't know that this is where this thing was, but the Devil's Tower. Do you know what the Devil's Tower is?
No, I think that there are multiple Devil's Towers, because I went to a Devil's Tower in New Jersey. If you look up the episode of the podcast, New Jersey Hauntings, I think it's called, you can hear audio of a live show that we did where we talked about going to the Devil's Tower. And actually, if you're a member of our Patreon at patreon.com/GTTUpod, you can see the video of us going there.
Yeah, I just remembered. I forgot that I did this. I edited together all of our like ghost hunting stuff into a sort of documentary that's on Patreon.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's awesome.
That is cool. I'm glad that I did. I forgot that I did that. You can watch us. That's fun. You can see like the uncut footage. That's fun. Anyway, the Devil's Tower that I'm talking about is this gigantic, it's like God. Well, I'll just call out what it's from. It's the giant tower where the aliens arrive at the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Does that, you know what I'm talking about now? So it's called a butte. It's this tall, flat-topped, like geographical
like
formation.
A mountain with a flat top.
Yeah, exactly. A mountain with a flat top. Exactly right. And it is the definition of iconic, partly because of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which was then parodied in a million places. Like I remember that in Rocko's Modern Life, Filbert the Turtle felt that he needed to go to the Galapagos Islands to mate. And the Galapagos Islands had that exact formation at the center of it. So he was making it out of mashed potatoes and stuff, just like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like it's just an emblem of pop culture at this point. But I didn't know this. The Devil's Tower in Wyoming is the first ever United States national monument, which was established by Teddy Roosevelt in 1906. It is a nearly mile-high giant mountain. The sides of it are almost perfectly flat, with like deep grooves going down the sides, almost like scratch marks.
Hmm.
Now, for being called the Devil's Tower, I expected it to have some awesome revelation that this is like an altar to Diablo or something like that. But no, the origin of the name is kind of bad news, it seems.
Oh.
So the Native Americans in the area referred to this actually as Bear's House or Bear's Lodge or Tree Rock. It had a number of different variations on those themes. But in 1875, a man named Colonel Richard Irving Dodge got weird info from his interpreter who, for being an interpreter, misinterpreted the name. He thought that the name that he heard would be interpreted into English as Bad God's Tower.
Oh.
There's God and there's Bad God. So he thought it was Bad God's Tower, which then obviously is easily transformed into Devil's Tower. But
Right.
no, the actual Native American name for this place would be Bear's Lodge, some variation of that, depending on, different names for different people. There has been evidently over the course of years some effort to rename the Devil's Tower. The current name is seen as potentially offensive. The renaming has not occurred. And people debate the origin of the Devil's Tower overall, saying that it might be the remnants of a volcano itself, or it might be what's called a volcanic plug. That literally, it's like
Oh God.
the butte itself is like capping a volcano or made of the like magma that is dried now. And here's something interesting. For sticking out of the earth, that's not how it was formed. It's not like jutting out of the planet Earth. Rather, it's been there, and the land used to be high around it as well. But the land around it was all like, dirt and other kinds of rocks that have eroded over the course of years. But what the Devil's Tower is made out of is like sturdy stock. So while the rest of the ground has eroded around it, it's just remained in place. And so it's going to get taller over the course of time too, because the ground will continue to erode around the Devil's Tower, but the Devil's Tower itself is made of this rock that it takes a far longer time for it to be, worn away or something like that. So
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. The first ever national monument. The Devil's Tower name isn't as spooky as I would want, but I do have, to cap it off, a story from the Native American tribes, the Kiowa and the Lakota, about the origin of the Devil's Tower, which, again, they would call Bear Lodge. And it's a very cool story. So, as the story goes, a group of girls went out to play and were spotted by several giant bears who began to chase them. In an effort to escape the bears, the girls climbed atop a rock, fell to their knees, and prayed to the Great Spirit to save them. Hearing their prayers, the Great Spirit made the rock rise from the ground toward the heavens so that the bears could not reach the girls. The bears, in an effort to climb the rock, left deep claw marks in the sides, which had become too steep to climb. Those are the marks which appear today on the sides of the Devil's Tower.
I love that story.
I absolutely love it. I love like origin stories for landmarks and the beginnings of things, how things were made according to different cultures. Wonderful. Wonderful. So that's the Devil's Tower. Unfortunately, not some, for my purposes, I want it to be some like wacky Satan stuff. But no, not the case. Horrible misinterpretation that we've all just stuck with all this time because tradition, I guess? Who knows?
Who knows? I know, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So, William, let's now go to the library.
Yes, please. I've got my card right here.
Perfect. You know I love a haunted library.
I know you do.
And this is the story of the Sweetwater County Library in Green River. So this place was built on top of a graveyard. And at first I was like, okay, it's probably just that people say it was built on top of a graveyard, but that seems to actually be the case. The cemetery was moved at one point because of the land it wasn't because the land was on top of a natural spring, but it was on top of a natural spring. And because of that, some coffins shifted underneath the ground because a natural spring means that there's water and stuff.
Yeah, pressure pushing them around.
Yes. And so when the cemetery was moved, some of these coffins that weren't in the spot that they were supposed to be in weren't moved with it. So there are definitely coffins and bodies underneath this library.
Ugh.
And apparently a coffin turned up in 1985, which is not that long ago relatively.
What do you
I
mean
couldn't find
turned up?
I know I couldn't find any details on the story. I just found something saying that a coffin turned up.
That's a phrase to unpack, right? Like
I
that is
know.
specific terminology. If it was once underground and it turned up, I think we
Yes.
can assume that means it came out of the ground. Um, is that
Yes,
like
but why and or not why, but where, what
uh-huh.
happened exactly? I could not find details on that, so not entirely sure that it's true.
I'm
I think
gonna
that I used a source that you also used at one point. It was like a country radio station that
yeah,
seemed to have a series on haunted places,
totally.
and I think that was the one who did this one and just kind of said that.
Fair enough. Well, I'm more than happy to speculate, and this is boundless speculation. But we know it's definitely true if I speculate.
Yeah,
I'm betting that the coffin, quote unquote, turned up during story time in the children's section.
I think it's not totally impossible. I think that that could be.
The absolute worst time and place for a coffin to suddenly turn up.
Right, right. That's legend has it. So, but I mean, it does seem factual because I did do a little digging that there really had been a cemetery on the land where the library is now built, and that they really were moving bodies and graves and things like that, and some of them weren't where they were supposed to be.
Yeesh.
So they are probably still under there.
Ugh.
And so maybe because of that, there have been some ghostly happenings. Staff has reported books flying off shelves, hearing their name whispered.
Their own name?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. Computers and light switches turning on and off. So I was completely delighted to find that this is such a thing that they host a ghost log blog on the Sweetwater County Library website. So this is a classic kind of old looking, not the website itself, but the blog is it kind of looks like when we first started having blogs with the capability of changing the background.
Sure.
So the layout of the blog, or more the background of it, is kind of like cosmic and starry, sort of purpley. It's awesome, and it looks, like I said, it looks kind of old, but it stays updated. The most recent post on it was from January 3rd, but the log goes all the way back to January of the year 2000.
Wow.
It's in the show notes, and I highly encourage that you guys go check this out because I could have just read this thing for longer than I had time for.
That's very cool.
It's so awesome. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the January 3rd entry. It was a breakdown of what they called a ghost walk through the library, and it was written by somebody named Megan McComas. So something that I like about it is that there was no context for what a ghost walk means or anything. This seriously did just feel like a cut and dry log, like almost written just for the person who wrote it themselves to remember what happened. It wasn't like, we took a ghost walk through here. What this means is blah, blah, blah. And it was written out in like bullet points, numbered bullet points, like
Yeah.
this happened, this happened, this happened. And I loved the context that I was able to gather just from reading the list, even though they didn't tell us some things outright. So I'm just going to read you the first 4 notes from this thing, and then we'll talk about them. 1, I was poked in the upper left arm by the bookshelf that holds the first library's books. It did scare me, but looking back, I do not feel it was ill intent, but more of a letting me know that they were there. I did form 2 bruises, but did not notice the second one higher up on my arm until the next day. 2, we spoke with a new spirit up in the employee lounge named Walter. We gained a bit of information from him. 3, he often said, pray west. After doing some research, I found that the Lakota Native American tribe prays to 4 directions, with the west standing for the end of life as the sun sets, and the day ends in that direction. I am now curious to know if we had Lakota people here when the cemetery was at the library. 4, we got the name Walter from Mary's voice box and Cindy's pendulum.
Wow.
So also there's a picture accompanying this log that is of, it seems like 6 people that I could see standing in a circle. You can only see one person's face, but they're kind of smiling. And a couple of people are holding ghost hunting equipment. So it seems to me that what did they call it? A ghost walk is maybe a paranormal investigation where they were using tools and stuff like that. And so, like, Mary had brought her voice box and Cindy brought her pendulum, and Megan was taking the record and loaded it on this website later. And I absolutely love it so much. I think it's so nice.
I love that. You're right. It does play like personal notes that happen to be online now. Wow.
Yep.
It's like great insight into what it's like to be there.
I know. I almost like that there isn't more context. It's so sweet.
Completely. It's also almost forensic to be like, I've got a bruise on my arm. A second bruise appeared the next day.
Right. It's just keeping a record.
Yeah, that's very cool. What's the name of that library?
It is the Sweetwater County Library in Green River, Wyoming.
It's also like a quaint name. The Sweetwater Library is haunted and there are bodies underneath it. Like that's great. What a great story. All right, I think the final one that I'm going to be able to share with you is another one of my favorites. I'm bookending mine with some wild stories. And I'm pumped. I never thought we'd ever talk about this thing, but here we are. Wyoming, this is for you. Thanks for not listening to us. I'm going to tell you about the jackalope.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Kristen, what do you...
How much Dave Coulier talk is in this?
There, a little bit. Not too much. I didn't watch too many Jack Ping Bada Bing videos. Wait, let me double check this. Yeah, Dave Coulier, best known as Uncle Terry. What's his name?
What the hell is his name? What is his name?
Uncle Dave Coulier on Full House. What's his name?
There's Uncle Jesse. Danny is the dad. Uncle...
Maybe they just never gave him a name. He was just always there. The guy that says cut it out. I can't think of his name.
What in God's name is his name?
I don't know. What in God's name is his name? Great question. Anyway, whatever. That guy, Dave Coulier, who is also the focal point of You Ought to Know, the Alanis Morissette song.
Yes.
Good God.
Shockingly.
He hosted a show called America's Funniest People, which seems to have been in direct competition with Bob Saget, also of Full House, who hosted America's Funniest Home Videos. So
weird.
Dave Coulier hosted this knockoff, America's Funniest People, and he had a segment, like a regular segment, where he did the voice of a jackalope character named Jack Ching Bada Bing. Hilarious name. And Jack Ching Bada Bing would like talking like a little woodchuck voice, basically, and just run around annoying the mailman.
Yep.
And the show was called America's Funniest People, which implies that Dave Coulier was one of them.
He's one of them, absolutely. And by the way, he was Uncle Joey on Full House. I just looked it up.
Of course, thank you. So the jackalope, I'm going to say made most famous by Dave Coulier.
Absolutely.
Is a Wyoming native.
Huh.
Yeah, and for people that can't picture this thing, a jackalope is basically, and you've probably seen it even if you didn't know the name, it's that mounted head you've probably seen in like a bar or something, or at least on TV. It's
I have tattoos of jackalopes.
Is that right? Is a jackalope a bigger deal than I'm giving it credit for?
I guess I've never known why. Yeah. I knew that it wasn't because of Jack Ching Bada Bing. I guess I thought it was just kind of like a cool looking thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a thing.
Yeah, it is a rabbit or a hare with the antlers of a deer. So it's sort of I don't know, like a folksy, I guess, American mythological creature. But I have a distinct origin for it from Wyoming in 1932, where Douglas Herrick and his brother, who were hunters and also taxidermists by mail order.
Okay.
By mail
that seems
order,
like a risk.
It seems like a story there.
Yeah.
Anyway, they went hunting for jackrabbits, and then Douglas Herrick came back to the taxidermy store and, quote, tossed a carcass in, and it landed beside some deer antlers, and then a giant light bulb went off in his head.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, what if I just put those antlers on that jackrabbit? He probably said to himself.
Look, who am I to criticize? Because obviously this thing took the world by storm. So
Yo, it exploded. The first jackalope was sold for $10 to the Douglas, Wyoming Wort Hotel. $10. I don't know what the like. Yeah, I want to know how much money that would be today from
what year was it?
$1932. Yeah, 32. Give me 1 second. I want to actually see.
Yeah.
$10.
I feel like it wouldn't be that much relatively, like 100.
I bet it's worth quite a bit. Okay, this is just a website called in 2013 dollars is already 8 years old.
Yeah, right.
But let me see. I've got another website. $10 from 1932 to 2020 is $176.
Okay.
So that's not too shabby.
Bad.
That's almost half a PlayStation right there.
Right. That's not that close to half a PlayStation.
It's getting there though. For just putting some antlers on a rabbit's head.
I guess if you get the digital version.
Yeah, exactly, Kristen. Exactly.
In hot pursuit of PlayStations in the Rogers and Anderson households.
Oh,
and the Rogers household just snagged one.
Mm-hmm. Allie managed to get her hands on one. Anyway, so they sold that first jackalope for $10. It was stolen in 1977. Don't worry, they made more. The jackalope became a popular local attraction in Douglas, Wyoming, where the Chamber of Commerce issues jackalope hunting licenses to tourists. The tags are good for hunting during official jackalope season, which occurs for only one day, June 31st, a non-existent date as June has 30 days. The license is only good from midnight to 2 a.m., and all of that is very cute to me, Like they know full well the jackalope's not real, so the license isn't really useful, but here's a weird detail. The hunter must have an IQ greater than 50, but not over 72.
Okay.
Kind of, I don't know. Kind of makes me sad. But all right.
Yeah.
It's a little dark.
Fairly low,
Yeah, it's I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Now
I think they overshot.
I agree. A fun Willy fact. So when we recorded, I was one of the producers of an audio drama called Earthbreak, and the show was recorded on location at this house that we rented out in California. The house was this beautiful cabin, clearly like an old Hollywood cabin. It's been used for stuff. The grounds around there have been used for like movies and things like that. The inside
on Spawn Ranch, right?
On Spawn Ranch? Yeah, of course we recorded on Spawn Ranch. So the inside of the cabin, as wonderful as it was, littered with taxidermy. Like a boar head in the kitchen hung on the wall that has like a baseball cap on it. A little teeny pig thing, like a fuzzy pig above the fireplace wearing a bow tie. What?
Oh, I've never seen a pig taxidermy.
Oh, I can show you some pictures. And they had a raccoon's butt on one wall, and then you walk into the other room and the front of the raccoon sticking out of the wall from that side. Like they were way into taxidermy, and there was a jackalope in there. And I remember embarrassing myself with the crew and like our director and star Jenny Slate because I think I made a Dave Coulier reference. Pointing at
oh my God, what do you think you said?
I don't think I could have possibly remembered enough to go, hey, look, what do you think that is? Jack Ching Bada Bing? I wonder if he'll be in our production.
Oh, I wish you did the voice or something.
Hey, look at me over here. Oh, get out of my way.
Yeah, that's what it was like, if you don't know.
And it just halts production. They hand me a ticket back to New Jersey.
Yeah, right.
But I was surrounded by taxidermy, and a jackalope was one of them. But yeah, the story takes off. The jackalope is insanely popular. It is everywhere. Weirdly, throughout history, there have been depictions of rabbits with horns. There's also a horrible condition that rabbits can have called the Shope papillomavirus that can result in them growing horns out of their bodies. So maybe this is where stories have come about jackalopes over the years. I don't know.
Well, that's cannibal stuff.
I know, it's true. There's a 13th century Prussian work showing a rabbit with one horn like a unicorn. There's also a creature in Bavaria called the Walpertinger, which is a rabbit with antlers, wings, and fangs. Here's from the Wikipedia for the Walpertinger. The most widespread description portrays the Walpertinger as having the head of a rabbit, the body of a squirrel, the antlers of a deer, and the wings and occasionally the legs of a pheasant.
Good Lord. I can barely picture that.
No, I think the point is, and this is what's really weirdest to me of all of this, because like my taxidermy adventure in California, they had, again, hats on a boar, bow ties on a pig, the butt of a raccoon in one room, and the face of the raccoon on the opposite wall inside. Like, I think that humans have a shared joy that defies, your nationality. We all have this, I guess, in us. How fun would it be to take a dead animal and combine it with other kinds of animals, or put a silly hat on it or something and like pretend it's a new animal? I guess we like to do that. We like to make up new animals, and that's what the jackalope is.
We all have a bit of a Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, it's wacky, but like there are multiple. And how weird is it that there's another rabbit antler one, the Walpertinger? It makes me want to look up more stuff like that. As much as I don't like that.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how much I like it.
I know. I don't particularly. I don't enjoy that. I wouldn't be like, yeah, great, take a dead animal and just do whatever you want. Like, it just seems weird to me. I don't like that.
Yeah. Feels off.
But people have done it, and it's kind of, darkly fascinating. But the jackalope is also supposed to have powers and a character and stuff. So the jackalope is said to be able to imitate the human voice. During the days of the Old West, when cowboys gathered by the campfires singing at night, jackalopes could be heard mimicking their voices or singing along, usually as a tenor.
Oh my God, that's funny.
It is said that jackalopes only breed during lightning flashes, and that their antlers make the act difficult despite the hare's reputation for fertility.
Oh my God.
Also, evidently, the Wyoming legislature keeps trying to pass a bill that would make the jackalope the state's official mythological creature. They should do that. That's fun. Which makes me ask, is that a thing? Do states have an official? Like the Jersey Devil is probably the obvious one for us, but like, does the state recognize it?
Officially. Yeah, right? I don't think so. I think that's just like a fun state thing.
I guess
which
so.
I think is probably kind of rare.
So it seems like it's happened several times that the bill has passed in the Wyoming House and then died in the Senate. It's happened 3 times that it passed in the House, and then in the Senate they were like, the day's over. We're not. We don't care about this. But a man named Dan Zwanitzer is on record as saying, "Oh, I'll keep bringing it back up until it passes." So,
that's funny.
From us to you, good luck, Dan Zwanitzer. Make the jackalope the state official mythological creature of Wyoming or whatever.
We salute you.
We salute
you.
Here
at Guide to the Unknown.
That's right. And to Dave Coulier and Jack Ching Bada Bing. I already used up my salute, but hello.
Yeah. It's done.
Could you have remembered the name Jack Ching Bada Bing? Does that ring a bell?
No. Once you said it, it rings a bell, but I would not have known that off the top of my head at all.
When I read the name Jack Ching Bada Bing, it was like having a little mini flashback, or maybe
you probably got like knocked back in your chair.
I did. I used to watch America's Funniest People because I was in awe that it was nowhere near as good as America's Funniest Home Videos.
It was fascinating. I definitely remember us watching it.
Oh yeah, and even as a child though, I was like,
it didn't feel right.
Was he trying to do the same thing as his other friend on that show?
Yeah, it's strange.
What am I looking at?
I know. And the set was like white as opposed to America's Funniest Home Videos, which is kind of black and dark.
It was like a living room set, America's Funniest Home Videos, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because Bob Saget would always go like, and honey, I'll be home late or whatever. He always had like a honey joke as his sign off.
I think he was walking around amongst a studio audience.
I think, Kristen, you might be thinking of Bob Bergeron or Ned Bergeron. Tom Bergeron, who took over.
You might be right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Anyway, that's all I feel like saying about the jackalope. Oh, its name is a portmanteau of jackrabbit and antelope.
Oh, well, yeah, duh. Thanks for the
I don't know. I
Breaking news.
just hadn't mentioned it. I don't know. I hope all you Wyomingians feel pride with me sort of making fun of the jackalope. They're like statues to it there. No shade. I mean, it's fun to have like your thing.
I think that's fun. Seriously,
it's super fun.
Why not?
Oh, I completely agree.
There was like a weird creature that there were statues of around here.
1,000,000%. And I've been very aware of the jackalope. And again, like it really has become sort of like a staple of Americana.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had no idea that it hailed from the least Guide to the Unknown listened state, Wyoming.
I know. Neither did I. Well, I hope people from Wyoming, this has changed your opinion of Guides to the Unknown. I hope that the 700 listeners we have there, or the one person who's listened 700 times, passes this on to your friends in state. Let's get you out from the bottom. Let's get you even just second from the bottom. We would love that. And I really enjoyed this episode.
I loved it.
Even just besides pandering to the people of Wyoming. So thank you very much in a way.
Totally. I love specific stories. I love looking at like potentially obscure or lesser known haunted places, folklore, things that honestly we may not have covered without doing a Wyoming, master cut. But yeah, what I say next, I say specifically to people from Wyoming who now may have stumbled across Guide to the Unknown and made it to the end. If you enjoyed this episode, there are other episodes in our feed that you also might enjoy. Guide to the Unknown has been going for a few years now, and we've covered the true stories behind pop culture movies like The Conjuring. We've talked about The Exorcist. We've talked about other folklore like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. We've been covering spooky stories from a wide spectrum of creepy topics for years. So if you've enjoyed this episode and you've made it this far, subscribe to Guide to the Unknown and check out some of the other stuff that we've done. And if you crave even more, go to gttupod.com. That's going to give you links to all of our social media. That's going to bring you to our merch where, hey, if somebody was spotted wearing Guide to the Unknown stuff within the state boundaries of Wyoming, I mean, mind blown.
Huge for us. Huge for us.
Big, huge. And of course, we have got patreon.com/gttupod, where at the Netherworld Warrior level, starting at $4 a month, you're going to get access to the Netherworld Dispatch, which is an exclusive podcast just for the creme de la creme.
Right.
You'll get to hear us talk about spooky stuff over there and watch clips and stuff. It's super fun. There's a Discord as well. You can talk to other people that listen to or watch the show.
Plus, we do live streams. There are commentaries for all of the Scream movies.
Yeah.
Patreon's popping.
It really is. So, Wyomites, thank you very much for sharing your rich culture with us on this episode. And let's see. I'm gonna actually pay attention when this episode drops. I'm gonna look at the numbers. We're gonna see if people from Wyoming listened. It seems. I think it happened to Alaska last time. And then, it's going to be like Delaware who's in our sights next time.
Right. It's going to be in our crosshairs. So, yeah, if you want to, Wyoming people, if you want to basically like pick a fight with Delaware, if you tell all your friends, you're going to rise above them.
Yeah, 1,000%. You will be so far above Delaware in our estimation.
I don't even believe it.
I would love to see Apple Podcast reviews where somebody writes, I'm from Wyoming and I liked this. Or I'm from Wyoming and I didn't like this. I wouldn't be happy to see that, but I would love to know that we've made it there.
Right. Yeah.
It's all we ever asked for. But if you're interested, you can also find Kristen and myself online.
That's right. I'm at Chillin' Kristen.
I am at The Myth Traveler. So thank you all, especially all you people from Wyoming, for listening. We will be back next time for more freaky facts and frightening tales. But until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the Netherworld go we.
And hey,
with perhaps a pit stop in Wyoming.
I was going to say, maybe we'll have to update our course from the Netherworld to stop in at the Sweetwater Library.
Oh, yeah. Or stay at the Wort Hotel. Did the jackalope run really fast or something?
Yes, I think a lot of it was shown from the jackalope's perspective. Like it was first person jackalope cam. And he would jump up and push the mailman's butt so he went flying into a pool. I also think that Dave Coulier was doing literally the same voice as what he did for his woodchuck puppet.
Yeah.
On Full House for the Jackalopes. So he was double dipping with the one other voice he did.
Yeah, I think you're right. But so we could hitch a ride on the Jackalope to get to Wyoming.
That's definitely true. The other voice he did was Bullwinkle.
Yes, I did know that.
So that's pretty cool.
Man of many talents, including Alanis Morissette Heartbreaking.
You sure did. Sure did. Well, there you go, everybody. My toes have remained warm for this entire recording.
Ooh, very nice.
I really am curious to see.
I know. We'll see.
If anything happens. So I said it on the
Remember
episode.
how big a jump happened in Alaska?
I don't remember, admittedly. But I did say in this episode 702 listens for Wyoming as of this recording. Now, what's going to be tricky is we're recording all these shows in advance. So I'm going to need to also look at the stats for Wyoming before the episode drops.
Yes.
And then again after the episode's been out to see if anything changes. Because presumably something will be different between recording day now and dropping day whenever the show comes out.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
We're going to have to keep a tight eye.
It's going to be a tricky operation, but I mean to find out if this is effective. And then, hey, if we eventually get to a point where we've covered all 50 states, then we can like bundle those episodes and be like, this is the Great American Road Trip of Guide to the Unknown episodes.
That'd be very cool.
Right? That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yep. I like that.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us for this live recording. Hope you had a good time. That's all. You can go now.
Yeah. Right. Dismissed. Class dismissed.
You're like Mr. Feeney. The last episode of Boy Meets World.
Looking wistfully at the classroom behind me as I close the door.
Class dismissed.
Class dismissed.
Then he just went home.
Another way that I'm like Mr. Feeney.
So many ways. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
All right. We're off.
Cool.
Great.